Welcome to Sports Talk NYC. Uh, you've been here before, you know the drill. I touched on the Brooklyn Nets earlier in a video I did today. Now I want to go back to wrestling because a lot has happened in the few weeks I was gone. A lot has happened in the really in each company. But I'm going to talk about my favorite company, or what I at least thought was my favorite company up until a couple weeks ago, which is Ring of Honor, ROH. Uh, I attended the Best in the World 2012 show here in New York City at the Hammerstein, and I also attended Best in the World 2011. And Best in the World 2011 was probably the best pay-per-view in any wrestling company last year. It had everything. It had a great tag match, a great singles match. All the championships were defended. It was a great night overall. I didn't feel the same way at Best in the World 2012 for a host of reasons, and I'll get to that in a few. But as for the show itself, it was okay. I always tend to enjoy myself, good show or bad show. I always tend to enjoy myself, and this time I still enjoyed myself. But there were definitely times where I felt like this isn't the best they can do. This certainly isn't where ROH should be. And you hear a lot of former ROH superstars who have gone on to bigger and better things. You hear them say that ROH is a shell of itself, a former shell of itself. And I see why. I'm starting to see it now. Um, Best in the World 2012 had Kevin Steen versus Davey Richards in the main event. And that's a big draw. That is their money match right now. There's nothing else that's going to compare to the hype, to the draw of Steen versus Richards. Now they are building up a couple of singles competitors to get up to that level. Guys like Adam Cole, guys like Kyle O'Reilly. And that feud right there, Cole versus O'Reilly, is probably going to be what Richards and Edwards was last year into this year. That they had about 3 to 4 matches that were just tremendously good matches, and I feel like Cole versus O'Reilly is setting up to be that feud in the future. Obviously, for a world title, that's what it's gonna be. That's what it looks like. So Best in the World 2012 was hit and miss. We had Michael Elgin, who's a breakout star, future star, versus Finlay, who I didn't think was well past his prime. I thought he could still wrestle pretty well, but then I saw this match and I thought to myself, Finlay has lost it. Not to say that he really ever had it, but definitely, I don't. His wrestling ability has gone down completely, and I'm happy to hear he now has a job in the WWE as I don't know if it's a producer of some sort or a trainer. He's got some sort of gig now in the WWE where he's not wrestling, and that's good. That's good. We had ANX, Kenny King and Rhett Titus beat World's Greatest Tag Team for the tag belts. And I'm sure if you've been following wrestling at all, you know exactly where that's gone. I'll get to that in a second as well. We had Roderick Strong defend his title against Jay Lethal and Tommaso Ciampa and beat them both in a great match. That was a very good match. And then we had Steen Richards, which produced exactly what it was supposed to. And Steen did his thing. Steen is the man in ROH. The problem is he doesn't have too much competition behind him. You know, we've seen him versus Richards a couple times now, and they can milk that for all it's worth a couple more times until that gets old. We've seen him go up against Eddie Edwards, I think twice now as well, and you can milk that for however long. You can obviously, I think he fought Roderick Strong once already. He, as the champ, you know, he's probably going to go through everybody and figure out that there isn't much talent left in ROH, and that is the huge problem right now there. When I started really getting into ROH at the beginning of 2011, there was a lot of talent still there. I mean, there's a lot of talent that's left, you know, even before 2011, but a lot of talent was still there from my first show that I went to, which was Manhattan Mayhem. I had followed ROH a little bit, you know, online and whatnot, but I'd never gone to a show. I didn't get to see all the wrestlers, you know. I've seen some of them before when they had worked for TNA or WWE or anything, but I'd never seen them in Ring of Honor. So my first show was Manhattan Mayhem 4 in it was February or March of 2011. And even then, they had a lot of great talent then. Since then, they've lost so much. I mean, even in that year, now year and a half, 2 years almost, they've lost the Kings of Wrestling, Chris Hero and Claudio. They've lost Christopher Daniels, who's always been a tremendous worker, great wrestler. They lost El Generico, who's like the biggest, most over guy in ROH, outside of Kevin Steen, of course, now. But Generico has always been over with the crowd, and they lost him. Now they've lost Kenny King in a situation where his contract was up. I guess they came to some kind of agreement, but not a signed contract or anything. So King left, got his opportunity in TNA, has put on a couple of great matches at Destination X, and looks like he's not coming back at all, whether he wants to or not. So that leaves the titles vacated, and kind of Rhett Titus is on his own now, and whether they'll give him a singles push, what they do with him now is, I don't know. But they've lost so much talent in ROH. And the worst part is, they're not bringing anybody in. The input-output ratio is just terribly off in Ring of Honor. You think about losing guys like Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness, who were the two biggest stars of ROH. They left. McGuinness came back in an announcer's role, but they left. So that void had to be filled, and it kind of got filled. Kind of. You got guys like Austin Aries, who left for TNA, and he's bigger and better things now. X Division champ, now world champ. Obviously, the Kings of Wrestling, which was arguably the greatest tag team of the last few years, of the last 5 years. And now they're both in the WWE. One has debuted, Claudio's debuted, and Chris Hero has not yet. Christopher Daniels went back to TNA. El Generico is in Evolve, is in working some Evolve matches, and now it's like, where is this roster going? Kenny King's in TNA. Where is this roster going? They're starting to bring in these, I don't want to say nobodies, but guys who, deserve a chance to at least have their talent shown, but they're not bringing in big talents. And I'm trying to figure out why. I'm trying to figure out, with all these names on the free agent market, why are they not bringing in more? I remember before 2011, they brought in the world's greatest tag team, and I thought, wow, these guys are doing something good. Then Jay Lethal got released from TNA, and for Best in the World 2011, Lethal comes and makes his debut. And since then, he's been doing great there. But it seems like since Lethal has debuted, they haven't debuted anybody else. And that's now over a year ago, compared to how many people they've lost in that year. They can try to build stars within their roster, but it's not going to work out completely if you're not bringing in guys that can compete with them. Why is it that guys like... Okay, for example, I went to another wrestling show, FWE, Family Wrestling Entertainment, and it was a small show, 100 people or less. And the talent there, I mean, why hasn't ROH contacted some of the guys I saw at this show? Obviously, Jay Lethal, and not only that, but they have a network right there with Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal was headlining the show. Why hasn't ROH contacted somebody like Carlito, who's been a free agent now for years? He's bulked up, he's still a great wrestler, and he can actually pull off a promo compared to the rest of the ROH roster that can barely get in front of a mic. Carlito can pull off promos, and he's a good wrestler. Why haven't they contacted him? If they haven't. I could be just talking out of my ass here. Paul London, who we haven't seen in years, has been a free agent. Petey Williams, ex-TNA guy, and I believe he might have wrestled in ROH a couple times. Why hasn't he been contacted? Because these are all good wrestlers with good gimmicks that could draw and sell in ROH. Even a guy like Tommy Dreamer. Because, ROH has been bringing in some of the older guys like Lance Storm and Finlay. Why not contact Tommy Dreamer, who has this huge cult following from the ECW days? He draws, and he's still a decent wrestler, you know? So many guys. I'm trying to actually think. David Hart Smith, D.H. Smith, who's been out of, the WWE now for a couple years. Why hasn't he gone to ROH? He did a PWG show sometime in the last few months. And he's a great wrestler, huge guy, a guy who could definitely be over with the crowd. I don't understand why ROH hasn't contacted even those names I've mentioned. And there's even more names on the free agent market. John Morrison, we haven't seen in a couple years. MVP, we haven't seen in a couple years. Chavo Guerrero, we haven't seen in quite some time. These are all good wrestlers who have promo cutting ability because they've been in the WWE. They've been there. They've been at the big time. They've cut promos. You want to start drawing? You want to start selling? These are the guys you have to go after. And I don't understand why financially you can't get one or two of them. Because even one or two of them would help tremendously. It would help with the variety of matches. Instead of seeing the same old Steen Richards in the main events, Richards Edwards in the same main events, you could have Steen Morrison, Steen MVP, Edwards MVP. The possibilities are endless when you start bringing in new talent. Alex Shelley. I completely forgot to mention Alex Shelley. He's a new free agent. He may be waiting on things for WWE, and he may not want to go to ROH right away, but contact him. Let him know that, you know what, we kind of need some talent. Did you not hear what happened with Kenny King, him leaving? We kind of need some talent. The roster is dwindling, and the input-output ratio is just, the balance is completely off. I fell in love with this company last year, not only for the wrestling, but for the wrestlers they had. It was such a diverse roster. You had guys in the main event, you had guys in the TV title, you had guys in the tag team division. Each division had their set guys, and they were all great. And now, I feel like it may not end so well for ROH. They had to cancel a couple shows out, I believe, in the Carolinas. And the Carolina shows always do very, very well. And they had to cancel those shows. And now also, they are not coming back to NYC until December. Usually they do a quarterly show, March, June, September, December, something like that. And they did the June show for Best in the World. They're skipping over September because they're going to be in Chicago for their big event. And then they're coming back in December. So 6 months layaway off from New York, and the New York fans are kind of stuck a little bit. Today, this is sort of, I guess, breaking news if you haven't heard. For the New York City fans, they announced that they're having the Supercard of Honor show next year in April. I'm excited for that. I'm hopeful that by then things will be better, that the roster will be put together better. I don't know. I want to say right now that everything will be fine, that ROH will pull through, that ROH will start picking up talent. But if they haven't done that in the last year, why would they start now? If it's a financial thing, and there's another thing, the financial reasons they're starting to come into play here. I haven't seen the Young Bucks or T.J. Perkins in New York in a couple shows because of their financial reasons. So financially, something is going on. Something has to happen. They have to pull it together, because ROH is a great indie wrestling, great indie wrestling promotion, which was on its way to becoming more than just an indie promotion. But now it's being stalled. It's being stunted, and it's kind of sad to see a little bit, A lot of great wrestlers have wrestled there, and a lot of great matches have happened there. And now it seems like, I hate to say it, but it seems like it's the beginning of the end for ROH.